let's get to Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves.
Let's go.
Because they made a mile-high statement against Nikola Jokic and the defending champions last night in Denver. Remember, the Nuggets hosting the Wolves here in Minnesota, up 1-0 coming into the night in this series. We're going to pick this up in the first quarter. The Timberwolves up 1. No Rudy Gobert, remember. Karl Anthony Towns guarded tight here by Jamal Murray. Towns muscles his way in. Denver, Chiney, wanted a charge called, but there was no whistle here.
Look, you have to be more consistent with your defensive play if you want to get the benefit of those calls. And shout out to Karl Anthony Towns for setting the tone. No Rudy Gobert, and he picked it up perfectly.
Tensions, though, they continued to boil a little bit here. Anthony Edwards goes right at KCP, finishes the tough layup. Caldwell Pope clearly was in pain after it, but look at Michael Malone here, Rich. Really angry that there was no whistle.
Yeah, I feel like he was trying to get thrown out in that moment because coaches don't do that. Even a technical would have been generous. But I think Mark Davis wanted him to stay in there and just,
watch what was going to happen.
Coach your team right now.
Okay, so let's go ahead to the second quarter and see what happened here because the Timberwolves, they had Jamal Murray frustrated.
My gosh, one of the plays of the game, it's not offense, it's defense. They swarmed him, they were relentless, and just watch this. They were just reading him, and they were reading the ball. This was his night summed up in one possession.
Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker just on them. And then watch here, the tension, the frustration boiling over. That's Jamal Murray there. Looks like maybe throwing a towel there in frustration. The play keeps going. Karl Anthony Towns pivots. Can't quite get that one, but continues with the play. And eventually, this happens. But watch a little closer here, Richard, because it looks like at some point a ice pack, a heat pad.
A heat pad.
That's a heat pad.
Slides across the floor that Jamal Murray also threw.
Yeah, it must have slipped out of his hands. That's what I'm going to assume in this manner.
In this matter, showing frustration.
Richard is sarcastic, y'all.
Anthony Edwards showing poise.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards has been the consummate leader, but watch this. It's two ends this way. Defense leading to offense. That's as easy. That's how easy they got everything based off of doing their work early.
At this point, the Wolves are just pouring it on. Mike Conley Jr., who's been huge for them, gets the strip here. 26 points.
Flex on him.
Largest halftime deficit, by the way, in Nuggets playoff history. So let's see if it got any better in the third, shall we? Under 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Minnesota up 78-50.
This was the move.
Edwards.
Help defense comes still able to knock it down. This guy is unconscious in the playoffs right now. This is the move right there.
And look
how do you guard that?
Look what he does afterwards. He's just like, yeah, shaking his head, letting everybody know. Keeps going, pours it on. Anthony Edwards.
Two people again. Come on now.
Remind you of anybody? When he hits a little shrug afterwards, Edwards had 27 points, 7 assists, but he knows you cannot let up against the champs.
And I always tell the team, like when we huddle up and Finchy say, we got to be ready to take their punch, I say, we're going to punch too.
So it's almost summertime, right? And the Timberwolves defense, they know it. They were hugging the Nuggets like a sundress, holding them to their fewest points in Denver since 2015.
You think we gonna what?
Yes, it was also one of their worst performances this season in field goal percentage, assists, and paint points. So going into Denver, just a split, right, Chiney? That's impressive. Going up 2-0 on the defending champions, we need new superlatives for what the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing.
This is the best defense in the NBA, and the D stands for dogs. They're led by Anthony Edwards from Georgia, and we know about them dogs. Those dogs are different. They had 12 blocks and also 10 steals. Leave me alone. They had 10 steals. They had a defensive double-double as a unit, but it really came down to one possession. Can I roll it while we all stay adults? Because this possession showed me so much from the game. So if you watch this right here, Naz Reid is on Jokic, and he goes under the screen to maintain that matchup. Jokic is so good that two players stay with him, but Jaden McDaniels is still able to read the shot and get a contest. Here, I don't know how many times I saw Jokic look uncharacteristic. Two people blocking him. Then again, Nickeil Alexander-Walker strips Jamal Murray. They are relentless. They're swarming. They're dogs, but this is what I love the most. Starting off on this possession, Naz Reid was on Jokic, and he stayed on him. But time and score, he realized here, based off of the scouting report, to switch out with just a few seconds, not even that, 0 on the shot clock. That's how connected they are. They are the best defense in the NBA. For those who say the NBA is about scoring, they are rewriting the script. They're winning by peaking offensively, but more so holding things down defensively. This is the defending champs that they're doing this. They're doing this without the guy who's likely to win Defensive Player of the Year. Respect the defense. I know I was going to say something else, but I'm looking at you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say respect the D, but whatever.
We do.
We do. We definitely 100% respect the defense. And so when I look at this team, I look at their frontline D. Their frontline D is impressive, right? What these guys are able to do is keep it together. What I'm talking about on the defensive end with this team, when you got front line, when you got back line, it is so impressive. And look, Naz Reid, even Karl-Anthony Towns, the way that he is defending is impressive. So yes, no Rudy Gobert, but their identity is the same. Their identity is that we have 3 dogs up front. We've talked about losing Drew Holiday and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Right.
We've talked about that. That's one player. They got 3 dogs up front.
Yeah.
They got 3 guys up front that defend at an elite level. They're all younger. They all have that energy. And then you have backline, Naz Reid. You have guys that come off the bench that accept the role, and they have accepted that defense is the key to their success. And when you know we're not just trying to outscore you, we're going to score too, but the way that we lock in on the defensive end, that's what's different.
I want to add Zach Lowe to the mix because obviously defense was the headline, but I know there's something else major going on in Minnesota that you've been feeling is overlooked, Zach.
First of all, y'all get it together. Tighten up over there. Second of all, the Minnesota Timberwolves have been the best defense in the NBA all season long. The reality is, if you want to win a title, and this team looks like the favorites to win the title right now, you got to be good on both ends of the floor. Guess who's the number one offense in the playoffs so far? The Minnesota Timberwolves, who were mediocre 17th, 18th all season. And if they were still mediocre 17th, 18th, yeah, they still win game 2 in a blowout. Game 1 might be a different story. Your margin for error shrinks like this. Some of it is great jump shooting from Ant and Cat, but a lot of it is their decision making, their calm, their poise has been off the charts for a veteran team. This team is scoring like gangbusters. If they keep that up, they could actually win the whole damn thing. That's been the big change. Their defense has been there all year. Offense, awesome.
The Wolves, they seem to be getting whatever they want, right? Look here on both ends of the floor, Richard.
No, it is. And that's when we talk about the Boston Celtics or their other team that are also tops in offense and defense. But on this west side, the way they lock in defensively, it gives juice to their offense. You can see they're communicating. They know who they're targeting on one end of the floor. They know who they're trying to attack. And even there, pointing to send Jokic up in the screen takes Jokic away from the basket. Now when you swing that ball, he knows he can drive as Jokic is trying to recover. They are all locked in together.
It clearly frustrated Jamal Murray, right? He struggled. He shot 3 for 18. And I want you to watch just a couple of clips here where I think his frustration was on full display, right? So he flashes the money sign at the referees. This is a move that we've seen players find $100,000 for that.
Add more to the fine.
Right, throwing a towel, throwing the heat pad.
That adds more to the fine.
Murray left the arena without speaking to reporters, but
add more to the fine.
Made his feelings very clear.
Inexcusable and dangerous. And, you know, I'm sure it was just a mistake and an oversight. I'm sure there was nothing intentional by the officiating at all, but certainly can't allow that to happen.
I wasn't aware of that. I knew a heating pack was on the floor, but it was not in my field of vision. You feel embarrassed. You feel exposed. So what are you going to do about it? You know, that's my biggest thing. What are you going to do about it? Look yourself in the mirror. Have the courage to look yourself in the mirror. Say, I did not do my job tonight. And be better next game. That's all I can ask of them.
All right, so let's get into all that. Before we do, the refs did tell our Dave McMenamin that they didn't see the throwing of the heat pack or towel, but if they would, it would have been a technical foul. But now the conversation turns to what happens next. What are the repercussions going to be? And there is talk from some folks that a suspension should be levied here. Do you think that is the case, Chiney?
I wouldn't be surprised if he were suspended. And I know that we take some of those things like in jest, oh, that's a quick money sign, oh, that we saw like one thing go a towel and then it was a heat pack. But the point where it escalated to me was the heat pack.
Okay.
That was on during the play. Someone could have landed on that heat pack. That we would be talking very differently if someone landed and got injured, and
including
his own
teammates,
Thank you.
I don't think
so. To me, you can't tolerate that type of behavior. And it's not like this just only happened once. We saw multiple instances. Now, if the league chose not to do so, I like the cooler heads prevailing amongst the coaches to say, hey, we want this to be decided on the court. Yeah. And guess what? It works to the T-Wolves' favor because they're heading home up 2-0. But I would not be surprised because we could have been talking about this a different way if someone stepped the wrong way and that altered the course of a series.
But it didn't. Ultimately, and that's what we're referencing right here. So Draymond said something that everyone jumps to suspension. He knows everyone jumps to suspension for him because of prior behavior.
Yeah.
This is what I will say about Jamal Murray. Yes, that was inexcusable. His frustration, Jamal Murray's been down 3-1, gone to the conference finals, missed 2 years, won a championship, 25 points a game in finals. He's been in pressure moments. That's what makes this so shocking because we've never seen this type of behavior and frustration. But if the referees would say, if we saw who did it, if we saw it happening, it would have been a technical. So if in the moment it's a technical, why is it that post-game, after all the analysis, we're like, he could be possibly suspended? It's a technical and a very large fine. And multiple things that he did are going to get a very large fine. But to take him out of a basketball game for his behavior, I think that's a situation where I think it wasn't quite to that level. If someone would have slipped, we'd have an argument. But not saying no harm, no foul.
Right.
But no harm, no foul.
And because of that, the conversations that I've had this morning with folks in the league, it doesn't seem like a suspension is going to be coming, but that fine, I expect it to be one. By the way, I don't expect it today because they have 3 days before games are played again. And when games are played again, the Nuggets need to get it together, Zach. What's going to need to happen if they're going to bounce back in this series?
Well, I mean, the first thing is they need Jamal Murray to play, and I agree. I don't think he's going to be suspended, nor do I think he should be. That said, it was a Bush League act, totally inexcusable. But they need him to make shots, and he's going to get mid-range shots in this series over and over again, the way the Wolves are defending with Gobert, without Gobert. It doesn't matter. If Jamal Murray is 9 of 32 with 25 points in 2 games, it's a wrap. They have no chance. They need a big game from their best players, and they just haven't gotten enough out of Jamal Murray. He's clearly limited by his calf injury. That's life. It's the playoffs. He's on the court. The Nuggets are not really built to get a lot of points from other places that aren't coming from Jamal Murray, and they just need their best players to show up. Jamal Murray hasn't been good enough, and that's just the reality.
For what it's worth, Denver's come back once from an 0-2 deficit, but it was when it was still a best-of-5 series in '94 against the Supersonics in the first round.